GOP database, how to potentially print their own walk lists, and how to update data. And Gary will walk us through it. You have the paper copy. And Bob is going to tape it, so we can even look at a video if we would want to at some point later. Okay? And give it to the people that were not able to be here. Now, if anybody has their own laptop, iPad, make sure you get to City of Crestwood guest, sign in, and I have the password, and it works.
It does.
She tried it and it works.
Yes.
I'll need help with that.
Okay? When you get, it will be a while. But when you get to your, what do you call that? Your access? Your internet access?
Thanks, John.
When you get to your ISP, John,
Yeah.
pick City of Crestwood guest.
List of networks.
It gives you a list of networks and pick City of Crestwood guest.
You want to come back here so I can get the help I need? Yeah. Here we go.
The password is, are you ready?
No, I'm not even there yet.
Capital C, like city, 1, TY, 3, MPL, 0, Y, 33S, capital O, NLY, exclamation mark. It's city employees only, it's translated. Did it work?
That's for the guest, right?
It's complicated.
It was a very pretty picture of your wife that I saw someplace. Yeah.
You want to do it again?
Actually, I have my laptop already pulled up too. I
Yeah.
can just bring that back.
Okay, one more time.
I'll be right.
Capital
Don't you need
C, 1, TY, 3.
Are these capitals or?
No, everything is lowercase
Yeah.
except the first letter.
Three.
C1TY3, MPL, 0, Y. No. I'm going to start over. Sorry.
C1, TY3,
Capital C, 1. Everything else in lowercase. T, Y, 3, M, P, L, 0. Y, 3, 3, S. Capital O, N, L, Y, lowercase.
So, already, if it runs out of battery.
Did you get it?
yeah.
Okay, so it's the right password. She got it. Did you bring a laptop?
I did.
Here's the ISP address and there's the password. Okay.
You all ready?
Anyway, so the object here is for you to learn, for Gary to show you how to sign into the database, how to move around it, find different things, your precinct or a legislative district or a street or whatever, and then print a list if you want to. And he's also going to show us or tell us or explain to us how we potentially can update the stuff that we have on paper up into the database. Right?
Yep.
Okay, Gary.
Hey everyone, thanks for coming tonight. I know it's kind of stormy outside and it's late, but I appreciate you being here. The whole point of data center is for people to use it, so if people don't know how to, it's important to get them trained up. So I'm glad you're here. For those of you who don't know, I'm Garrett Foreman. I'm the Digital Media Director for the Missouri Republican Party down in Jeff City. So the presentation today is just going to be a basic crash course on data center.
Thank you.
Show you how to log into it, how to access the data, and then how to export it as well. And then hopefully if we can get the internet working toward the end, we can do a live demonstration so you
What
guys
do you
can
mean?
follow along.
Get it working? It's not
See
working?
how it works. Huh?
It's not working?
What's up?
You said if the internet is working?
Oh no, if we can get it to work, if it's fast enough.
I see.
So,
It's all right.
So just to start with, we're gonna go over kind of what data is and what we use it for, take a step back and give you guys an idea of what exactly it is we're doing and why it's important to do it. So the first question obviously is what is data? Because we use that term a lot in politics, we use that term a lot in general. When we talk about cell phone data, or we hear the term big data a lot now, and it can be confusing. But when we're talking about the Missouri Republican Party specifically, and kind of party building, when we say data, what we're referring to is simply information that we know about voters. So that could be anything from a voter's name to how many times they've voted in the past 4 years. All of that falls under the idea of data, including their address, their phone number, their email address. That's just basically information that we know about any given voters. And so you can see I have my data pulled up there. And it just kind of gives you an idea of the most basic level of what data is and what it means to us in terms of data center. You can see it has my name and address and age and all that good stuff on there. And so the second question is, what is data used for? Why do we need this information and what good does it have to us to have it? And there are really two things that we do with data. And it starts with voter identification. This is the most basic level of how we interact with data at the party and at the state level. So when we're looking to reach out to voters, to turn voters out for elections, and ultimately get Republicans elected, in order to do that, we have to know who voters are and how they vote. We have to know their address, their phone number, things like that, so that in the future we can contact them. And that's exactly what voter identification is. So anytime we send people out to canvass, or we do mailings, or we do phone banks, things of that nature, we try to collect as much of that information as we can so that we can turn around and we can say, we know that Joe Smith lives on X Street and he is a consistently voting Republican, so when it comes time for election, we can give him a call and remind him to vote. And then the second phase of it is get out the vote efforts, GOTV. And this is kind of the most important part, because like I said, once we've identified that Joe Smith lives in this place, we can then send him a piece of mail about a certain candidate. If we know that he's a swing voter, we can then identify him and use that information to increase his chances of voting Republican in the upcoming election. So that's the second way that we use data, and that kind of gives you an idea of why we're even here in the first place, why this matters, and why we use data center. So that's the background information. And then we're going to go over kind of what GOP Data Center looks like and how you can log in. If you don't have your login information, just come up to me after the presentation and I can look that up for you, and I can make sure that you have a username and password. I think everyone in the county committee should have an account already, and so it's just a matter of relaying the password and username to you. And I should note before we start really looking at Data Center and what it looks like that, lucky for us, last week the RNC decided that they're going to do a complete kind of revamp of Data Center. So it'll have all of the same functions, but it will essentially get a facelift. So the skin will look kind of different. So if you've used VoterVault or GOP Data Center in 2012 or 2014, know that before too long it's going to look completely different. And actually it's good that I'm here to show you kind of what that will look like. And we'll focus on that in the presentation, because before we know it, the RNC is going to completely replace the skin with this new one. But the packets that we're handing out, they kind of show you the old style, and so you can kind of get the best of both worlds. The process will be the same, so the instructions on there will work for the facelift, but know that there are kind of two different versions of Data Center right now, and we're kind of sitting in limbo until the RNC completely switches over to the new one, which shouldn't be too long. And we're lucky for that because the old one was bad.
You remember the last time your data was refreshed or updated?
So the last time we did big, the whole voter file was kind of updated, would have been after the 2014 election. So after every election cycle, every 2 years, we go to the Secretary, well, every election actually, we go to the Secretary of State's office, and what they give us is basic information. They tell us who voted and when they voted, essentially. Who is a registered voter and what elections they voted in. And so that's kind of the base of all of the information that we're working with. So when you saw my name in data center, that was in there because I am a registered voter and I have voted before. And so the Secretary of State provides us with that information and we can build upon it. That's the base of our file.
Do you have unregistered voters in your data?
Yes, we have that as well.
Okay.
Okay, so before we get into data center too far, we have to talk real quick about how it's to be used and kind of our standard procedures, the really boring stuff. And there are a few ground rules. First of all, MRP and the RNC kind of in conjunction own the data. And what that means is that it can only be used for political purposes. So for example, I sometimes do web design for individual businesses on the side. I couldn't go into data center to try to find new clients because that's just not an appropriate use of data center. It's only to be used for political purposes. So if you run a small business and you're looking for clients on a certain street, this isn't the way to go about it. It's only for elections. The second part is don't share your login information. So even if you have a spouse who is also on the committee, or your brother or your best friend, you should have separate and unique login credentials. That's just the way that we operate. That way we know who uploaded what and when, and that's really important. The other part is to not share data without proper authorization. And what this essentially means is if a candidate comes to you because they know you're on the committee and they know you have access to data center, and they say, could you export a certain number of voters in this neighborhood or in this precinct, they should have their own login information for data center. So they shouldn't be coming to you for it. And so essentially we discourage you from sharing data with anyone that's outside of kind of your committee. And individual candidates actually have to sign a user agreement themselves, and their committees have to register with us in order to get access to data. So that kind of falls back under don't share your login information the same way don't share your data. And also, like I noted, the committee is separate from candidate committees, so be sure to check with us if you have a question. And that's the last point. If you're confused about what a rule is or how you should use the data, just ask us. I'll show my contact information at the end of this presentation. I'm pretty good about responding to emails, and my cell phone number's on there, so you can contact us at any time.
Quick question.
Sure.
Candidates, will they be charged?
Yes, they are charged.
Do you have them
Why?
yet?
Yes, we do have set amounts.
Why are they charged?
Because the RNC probably told them. We're not,
We want people to run and then we're gonna charge them to,
Yeah.
Well, there's a filing fee associated with running, so there are costs associated that candidates kind of just expect to spend money on.
no, but I would think the voter list.
And obviously, that's really more for the primary election. When we get into the general election, obviously, if MRP or anyone else or a county committee is working for a candidate, there's going to be some sort of collaboration. So we're not leaving them out there in the dust.
Okay,
They'll have access.
I like that better. How do you care?
So let's see, the amounts for candidates are, for statewide candidates, it's $300. For congressional candidates, it's $300. For state senate, it's $200. State rep is $150. Countywide candidates is $100. Cities are $100, and townships are $100.
Did you get one of these?
Yes.
Were you
No. Yeah, I got
in
one.
Bowman Township in May with Liz Gibbons and Rick Stream?
No, I don't.
Okay, there was somebody there from the state party.
Okay.
I was working on this. You mentioned that candidates have their own idea and they pay and so on. There's no candidate there yet. They were looking for a candidate. Do you have a way of handling that? Is it just it's owned by the state party? And so
For what? For a House district?
yeah, for House district.
A state House districts, that's handled by the House Republican Campaign Committee, or HRCC, and they do a really good job of recruiting. They're one of the elite state-level political organizations in the entire country. So I guarantee you, if there's an open seat they're looking for, and they're going to find someone good to run for sure. But yeah, HRCC, and that's who
They're in the process of getting one. If another one shows up before the primaries go, how is all that handled then?
They try to handle that centrally, and so they'll have some coordination, they have conversations with people as it's necessary. But of course, there will be some races that it's just inevitable, there will be multiple candidates. Sometimes you have to run a primary, but they do a pretty good job of coordinating that sort of thing. No problem. Any other questions at this
If
point?
you want to work with the HRCC, they have an effort by each legislative district, including yours, where you can work with them to update their data. There's a meeting next week, how should it,
I don't think, well, so HRCC is different from what
it's
we're doing
separate, it's
here.
totally separate.
Yep, we're separate organizations. We work together on a lot of stuff, but our data is, we have different
That's
data.
not,
Yeah.
You're not Democrats.
Nope. That's right, we are Republicans. Okay. So the main website for GOP Data Center, I didn't put it up here, but I should have, is just www.gopdatacenter.com. Easy as it can be. And it's just all one word, gopdatacenter.com. And when you get there, that's the screen that you will see. And this is the most underwhelming login screen probably in the world. But it has all the basic functions, so that's good. You can see obviously it has username and password. This here, don't worry about that. We don't use that. Some state parties do, but that's just not how we do our operation. And so you'll always log in with your username and password provided by us. All right, and if you're able to log in there with your username and password, this is the next screen you'll see, and you'll notice immediately that it looks very outdated, and that's because it is. This was developed, finally finished, I think, last updated in 2012, and although that doesn't seem that long ago, in internet years, that's like 2 decades. So you can see that it doesn't look very user-friendly, doesn't look like something you really want to mess around with. And so we're kind of lucky and fortunate that they're redesigning it. Really, it's going to be good for everyone. And I think once the redesign is done, that it will also work on mobile. So you should be able to use the GOP Data Center on your phone. It might be a little more difficult, but it should work on mobile, which this one doesn't currently. And so you can see, obviously, they're already advertising the new design right there. And so what I would encourage you to do is not use this old system, not use this old format, because it's going to go away pretty soon, and there's no point in getting used to it if it's going to go away. So I would click right into that red GOP Data Center sign as soon as you log in, and it will take you to a new login. And if you've been to gop.com, which is the RNC's main website, it looks a lot like this. They're trying to keep the style kind of the same. And you log in the same way, it works just the same, just looks a little nicer.
What was the name of the person who sent out the logins?
yes.
That's me.
Okay, so your email is?
It's Garrett at missouri.gop. It's 2 R's and 2 T's in Garrett.
Now, you went fast on that,
Oh, we can go back.
yeah, all the way to that, the one before that. Okay, now, yeah, okay, so what do you do when you get, and you look at that?
Right, so when you first get in, what I would encourage you to do is go straight to this and click on that.
Okay, that's what I thought.
She's not
you
here.
said.
Because that just takes you to the new system. And there's no point in learning the new system if it's going to go away.
Yes, she was here for a few minutes.
Okay,
If you look in your packets, it'll look like that. Soon we'll have materials that are updated with the new data center, but you can kind of get the best of both worlds that way for now. So you get to the login screen.
So are you taping right
It
now?
looks like any login screen you've ever
Are you
used. You just
taping
type
right
your
now?
username and password, you log
Is that a
in.
battery?
This is just re-acknowledging your data agreement. Same thing we talked about earlier with the ground rules. And then once you're logged in, it shows you your dashboard. There are lots of fancy statistics that you don't really need, but it looks nice, it looks pretty cool. And you can see already that this looks kind of easier to navigate than the old system. And so now we can talk about how you can use that system to access the data. If it seems like we're going fast, don't worry, there will be more videos early on, and I'll show you kind of how to navigate the site. But I just wanted to give you an idea of what it looks like. All right, so to get any data out of the system, you're going to want to go to Tools within the new design. And so this used to be called My Data in the old GOP Data Center, and now it's called Tools. That'll be the second menu item at the top. It just looks like a tool set. And when you get into there, you can do as much as looking up one individual voter and updating that information, or you can pull lock lists, phone lists. If you just want to see how many people in a certain area fit into these categories, you can do that as well and just get a raw number. But you'll be able to export into Excel sheets as well.
When you say update, you can actually make changes in the database?
Yes, you should be able to update individual voters. Now, updating large lists will be different, and we'll get to that later on.
But for each individual voter, I could potentially update the phone number or stuff like that?
Right, and we'll talk about that. Let's see, I think it's the next one. And that's the find a voter function. So this actually flows pretty well. And so if you want to look up an individual, it's called Find a Voter. And this is the icon that they use in Data Center. So if you're looking to look up an individual person, that's what you're looking for. That's the button you want to click. And like I said, this can be used to update individual level data. You should all be able to view individual data or voters and also edit them. And so there's a little video here too. Okay, no. And so if you know that Mary Sue down the street just moved across town, and you say, well, I know that, I might as well go in now and update that information, you can do that. And so when you go to find a voter, after you click this button, you'll see this information. And what that will allow you to do is go in, search for a voter. And let's see here. Well, I can show you, there it is. So you can search for a voter. I searched for myself after I misspelled my last name about 5 times. And when you go in there, it's just really easy to use fields. Just scroll down and you click a big search button at the bottom. Believe it or not, I'm the only Garrett Foreman in the state of Missouri. So you can click on their information then, and it will take you to a screen that lets you view their address, their phone number, all that information that you can then edit.
Can you make notes for each individual voter?
I believe there's a section.
For instance, I want to know who has yard signs or stuff like that.
That's a separate thing. We have tags for that.
Oh, okay.
And that will probably come from someone working with the party, but we are able to do that. And you can also search by tags too. So if you want to search for people who want yard signs, you can do that in there too.
You realize that when we search on people, the date of birth shows up?
Yes.
Is there a compelling reason for that?
It's just part of the information that we gather because Data Center allows you to search for people by age. So if you want to look for voters who are between 18 and 25, for example, within a certain precinct, it just enables us to do that. That's why the birth date is in there. But it should be noted that the only people that have access to Data Center are people working with us who have gotten approval. So it's not like this is public information.
It is public information.
Well, that's a good point.
No, I mean, if you go to the county and
Right.
county will give you their birthday.
Yeah,
Everybody's
and
birthday.
all that basic level information is what we get from the Secretary of State. So we don't have any secret methods for obtaining birth dates or addresses or anything like that. It's all from the Secretary of State. That is a public file that anyone can pay for. Okay, and so the next step is basic counts. That's kind of the next level up. And basic counts are when you see in a campaign headquarters a large list of people to call or a large walk list, that's where they get this, is from basic counts. And this is used to find voters matching a certain set of criteria within a geographical area.
How do you get to basic counts?
So it'll look like this. This is the button you'll want to click, and that is under Tools again. So if you were able to go to the Find a Voter section, you'll go to Tools, just like you did for Find a Voter, and then Basic Counts. And so this is an example kind of the criteria that you could use for a pretty basic count. If you want to find registered voters that live in your precinct, because you want to walk your precinct and introduce yourself and maybe give them some literature, but you just want to do it for known hard Republicans, then you're able to do that with basic counts. And side note, when we talk about party identification for Data Center, it may look different from some other things that you've used. We use a 5-point party ID scale, and I know there's 7 items up there, but the 5 that really matter to us are hard Republican, soft Republican, independent, soft Democrat, hard Democrat. Obviously, if they're unidentified or refuse to identify, it's not much use to us. And so that 5-point scale is what we use to really determine who's going to get what information most of the time. There are other methods, but that's the most basic way.
And how do you guys get the information to populate that?
Right.
So that comes from a lot of years of canvassing of people updating individual voters that they know themselves, or just data that we've gotten back over time.
So unless somebody enters it in, it stays wrong forever.
Right, and that's why this is important.
You don't go out to Google or to, in other words, an algorithm to go out and scan and
Well,
select.
there are ways to do that, and RNC has a calculated party is what they call it. That's something that we use more for mailings and things of that nature, so that's definitely something that is available to us. The thing about that is that that is uneditable. So if I'm in there as a Democrat, I can go in and change myself to be a hard Republican. But my RNC, the computer calculated party, that will always stay the same. I can't go in and edit it. That one I can't change.
There's just one people that can change those numbers? If
Well-
we know somebody's a hard Democrat or a hard Republican, could we do?
Right, and that's where you use the find a voter feature, the individual lookup.
We used to have numbers that we could put in.
Numbers? Oh, you mean like the 1, 2, 3, 4, that system, the
If they were
7
hard,
system?
we had a one that had us.
It's the same way, but you can just do it by selecting hard Republican, soft Republican.
Is that number still the same?
Yes, it should be. Yeah. So if you see the number on a spreadsheet somewhere, and it might be under like party ID, the number will be the same as it used to be. So when you get to basic counts, there you'll immediately see a number of horizontal menus. And these are just criteria that you can choose from to create an export. And so you can see that there are some things in here that look a little useful and some things in here that aren't going to be useful. And so we'll go through them one by one, the most important parts, and kind of break them down. I'll go through these pretty quick, so if you have a question, just let me know. Geography is just the basic stuff if you're looking for someone in your precinct or just someone in St. Louis County, if you have countywide access, or someone in your specific city or your zip code, you'll be able to do that here. And this is where you set just the geographic perimeter. Then the voter info criteria, that is the second horizontal menu. And you'll see this is what we talked about earlier, the party ID. And we also have registration status. Generally, for most things, you're going to click on register. There aren't many things that you look for unregistered voters for unless you're doing like a voter registration drive or something like that. Make sure to always click no on deceased for obvious reasons. And then, like we said, the age ranges are here and you can use those as well. We do have an option for email addresses. There aren't many email addresses in Data Center. That's kind of housed in a different place. So it's not really useful for that purpose, but phone numbers and addresses obviously are.
So when you're putting together a list, you can specify multiple criteria, like
Right.
multiple filters.
Right.
basically.
So if you wanted
A list that's-
registered independents between the ages of 18 and 25 with phone numbers known, you'll be able to look that up.
Or if you wanted 26 to 55.
Right. And you can use multiple of these menus as well. So, like we saw geography, so you can use geography and then this. So you can use multiple from each.
Right. So if you clicked on emails, yes, it would only return people that have
Exactly.
emails.
Right.
Right, I get it. But if you didn't click one way or the other on it, and you have your list,
It just
if
wouldn't
it has an
take it.
email, it would give it.
Exactly. If not, it'll have a blank space.
Right, okay.
Does it take the age by the birthday, or if you give it an age category, does that not get changed? Like somebody goes from 25 to 34, becomes 35, into the...
They'll automatically just fall within the new category.
It'll automatically take care of it because it knows the birthday.
Right, yeah.
I had a question back here. How do you work this for a complete township list? Will that be a future slide or?
For a complete township list,
Yeah.
so.
You're saying when it's hard Republicans.
Some of it's at multiple zip codes.
Right. So the easiest way to do that, and the way that actually everyone on this committee's system is set up, you'll go into select a county under precincts, and then the only ones that, unless there's some special permission, for individual county members in St. Louis County, you should just have your precincts for your township. And
So we gotta type in all the precincts?
Nope, you don't have to type them in, you just click them. And so when you click this button, all of the precincts in your township, and just your township, should come up. And so that makes it pretty easy. And you just select all of them, and then,
Right, you got the counties, St. Louis County, XYZ Township. Will that list the precincts left that way?
so,
Say I want it Merrimack, will all the Merrimack's precincts show
Oh,
up?
that's why I said XYZ.
Yeah.
yes, and we have a way to do that. And actually, so the old system, and I don't know if many of you used Data Center in 2012, but if you did, there may have been some information that was wrong. Because when I started going into the data stuff, and I started kind of organizing our database, we looked at the townships for St. Louis County, and we had ones that had just weird precincts from the Branson area, and no one even knows how those got there. And so we called the RNC and we said, hey, where did these come from? What are these? And they said, oh, those have been in there forever. They were uploaded by someone there. So someone a long time ago created these wrong townships. Luckily, I don't think we used them any, but we do have new custom kind of geographical categories by township, and so you should be able to just get that data too. Or, but again, the easiest way is going to be just to select all the precincts, but there's a way to do that. We'll be able to do that.
So when I click on this, St. Louis County comes up. And then over on the right side, you just have to know your precincts, correct?
Well, the only precincts that you'll see are the ones that are in your township.
That's automatic. You just, that you have St. Louis County, up comes your stuff.
Your stuff specifically.
What you did is you specifically made it so we can only see, like always in my township.
Right.
You can only see his township.
Right, exactly. Unless you have countywide access for some reason, which you should know.
So there's just one page of my precincts here.
Yep.
And I would click all of them.
Yep.
Oh,
So that was
that's
that.
cool. I like that.
So my township has 4 districts.
Mhm.
Okay, can I see everything in all 4 districts or just within my township?
Just within your jurisdiction. So if you were working, say that you started campaigning on a House district campaign, on a House rep campaign, and they wanted you to have access. They just have to contact us, and then we can update your permissions so that you can see the entire district. Does that make sense? So you should just have your precincts for your township, and that's something that's kind of new that hopefully should work well. If you ever see any precincts within your township that you don't think are part of your township, please let us know, that way we can fix it ASAP. But there shouldn't be anything like that.
So even if I bleed over into another township, it's still gonna show up here, right?
It will let you go to another
If a
township.
precinct shares, if a township shares a precinct, will it still show up?
Yes, yeah. And then the next category is,
Share polling places.
Share polling places, but not precincts.
I'm sorry, that's what I meant.
yeah, that's what I figured, yeah. But you'll have all your precincts. And the next category is voter frequency. And this may be something that you saw referred to in VoterVote or some other system as voter score or VS. It's the same thing. So this just allows you to select. What this represents is, if you look at overall voter frequency, if it says voted 4 out of 4, that means that of the past 4 elections of any kind, they voted 4 times. So those are probably going to be the people that obviously you're going to vote.
Is that just presidential cycles or all elections?
That's just elections.
Yeah, well,
Elections recognized by the state of Missouri, because that goes back to the data that we get from the Secretary of State.
so that's legislative districts,
Right. Yeah.
senate districts,
Yep.
congressional districts.
And primary?
Yes, in primary state. That's an important part. And so you can see that actually there. You can break it down by primary and general too. If you just want the information for people who voted 4 out of the last 4, say general elections, you can specify that as well. And absentee ballots too. Works the same way. Yes.
Okay, I'm assuming a hard Republican is somebody that's voted at every,
So that categorization is more about their policy stances or their kind of, if we would consider them a moderate or more of a traditional Republican.
how do you, okay, I'm in there as a soft Republican.
We can change that. And some of that information.
We've been working, I mean, it doesn't have to take effect here.
Hey, that's okay. I'm young. I've only had a few election cycles, so it registered me as a swing voter. So I went in and changed that myself, and you can change yours as well.
Okay, I just assumed that a Republican is somebody that's voted in almost every,
That may be how it tends to be, but this is really where it will show you how many elections they voted in. So they're kind of 2 separate categories, but yeah, they most likely have a lot of overplay.
That's a one Republican.
Yeah, they're probably.
so
So, and this is kind of another way to look at it. If you want a specific election, say you want to find voters who voted in the 2014 primary because you're looking for hard Republicans who voted in an off-election cycle, you could select that specifically here. I know these numbers and letters are confusing, but it just means vote history, 2008 general election, vote history, 2010 primary election, and so on and so on. So you can select by individual, and I should note that when it says Republican ballot, Democrat ballot, that in the state of Missouri, you don't have to register as a Republican or Democrat, as you all know, obviously. And so we really, a lot of states, in some places, you may see categories that are specifically for registered Republicans, registered Democrats. Well, in Missouri, we don't have registered Republicans or registered Democrats. We just have identifying Republicans and Democrats. So that's important to know, too. There may be some things in here that don't apply to us. Like I know in, did anyone in here use Data Beacon in 2014 that they know of? Okay.
It sucked.
Yeah.
I tried.
Yeah. That was the most common response.
Couldn't even generate a walk list.
Yeah, it was pretty difficult. And they kind of flipped the switch on everything that's been traditionally the RNC data system. It looked completely different from anything else we've ever used. And that is gone. Data Beacon is no more. They mixed it for 2016. So data center it is. And but there is, for example, to give you an idea of how some, the fact that it's a nationwide database might vary what things look like. There was, instead of counties, Data Beacon said jurisdictions. And everyone got really confused about that because jurisdictions means nothing to the Missourian. Because we call our counties counties, as you should. But Louisiana, who had a big primary at the time, they call their counties jurisdictions. And so Louisiana calls their counties jurisdictions.
Oh, jurisdiction.
Right. And so the RNC had to change it to jurisdictions just to satisfy everyone. So there may be some things that you see in here that don't look exactly right, and there's probably a reason. If you have a question about it, just ask us.
A question about yard signs. Does it just say, oh, they had a yard sign? Or you go into the granularity so we can find out what kind of yard sign? Second Amendment, pro-choice, pro-life?
Right, we're not there. What we are doing is just saying they have had a yard sign in the past. This is someone you could probably contact and get them to put a yard sign in the yard for a Republican. And the same goes for volunteer as well. So this isn't a surefire way of knowing, but it's a good starting point.
Better than nothing.
Yep.
But didn't I see a notes section on earlier by the voter? Way back. There was a field for notes. And I guess you could put stuff in there.
Right, exactly.
Right?
Yeah, yeah. So if you did a
And under voter, there's a little box that says notes. You can put more granular data in there if you want.
yeah, so if you had a bad conversation with someone on the phone and they said, never call me back again, the notes section would be a good place to put that. That way, if someone pulls up their data and they see, oh, this probably isn't the right person to call, maybe we should send an email, please, they can see that.
What's POI then?
Don't worry about that. I don't even know. So and there is more underneath here actually too for tags. There are a lot of old tags. There are a lot of tags that just don't apply anymore. These are really the ones that I would say are relevant. It may be event attendee. That just means they've attended a Missouri Republican event. For you all, the rest of it I wouldn't worry about. It's just old micro-targeting data that really
And
we're not
then you can keep
using
track of
anymore.
whoever goes to Lincoln Day dinner.
Yeah, you could. And we always do that when we have our attendees for Lincoln Days have been registered. We always make sure that's updated in the database too. All right, so next is, the next horizontal menu that you'll really care about is household criteria. And this one you won't really use very often. I've never used it. But if you wanted to find just, a single member household, or you wanted to find the head of a household and you just wanted to contact them for some reason, you're able to do that too. Or if you wanted to set, if say you had something about large families and you wanted to set it for only households that have at least 5 people, you could set that at this bar as well.
If we put notes in, they're visible to all of you guys?
Right.
In Jefferson City?
Right.
So we
Yeah.
might keep that in mind.
Yeah, and anything you update in here, whether it's your address or yeah.
It's forever.
Although,
Keep it clean,
you know,
keep it clean, right?
I mean, just maybe anonymous depending on the level of your church. But
But
anything.
you're the only one, I mean, like, my other townships won't see it.
Well, if they have access to it, they will.
Oh.
So maybe not inside.
Or your state rep, or your state
Yeah, they-
senator, will have access to it.
Yeah, so maybe choose the words carefully.
Swallow the giggle bug again.
So the next horizontal menu that really would be important to you all is the other criteria section. And so telephone reliability code just tells you how likely the phone number in there is to be correct and updated. So obviously 9's the highest, 0 is we have no idea. Generally, people like to not do anything below 7. Obviously, you can do things below 7, but 7 is kind of a good threshold for, yeah, we know this phone number is going to work. You're not going to waste your time. You're not going to waste your volunteers' time. You can also do by ethnicity if you have something that's really specific to outreach or something like that. So, that is basic counts. That kind of gives you an idea of the various criteria that you can use. And then from there are 2 basic functions that you can use within basic counts to get information about voters. And they're different systems, so it's important to look at the different steps. The first is creating a list. And this is really something that you want to use. Say you have 5 of your friends over in your house to do some phone banking, to do some last minute get out the vote effort or something like that within your neighborhood. That's where you would create a list because it produces a really readable, easy to use PDF list that you can literally just print off from the printer, hand it to someone and say make these phone calls. I wouldn't suggest doing it with that little instruction, but. And so when you create a list, you go in basic counts, and this shows you what basic counts looks like. Those are those horizontal menus we were talking about. And it's just that button, the first button that says create list. That's the first step. Once you click that, it pulls up this screen. And this is after you've selected your criteria. So say you've chosen hard Republicans in your precinct who have voted in 4 out of the last 4 elections. You've chosen those criteria, you then click on create a list, and it pulls up this, this menu, it pulls up these options. And there will be a few things that you can choose from there. And it'll show you kind of the process as it goes through it. So, okay, there it is. When you get down to here, it'll give you sorting options for how it shows up. So, if you want to do voters alphabetically, probably what you'll most likely do is precinct by street order for walk lists, or odd even order if you want to walk on one side of the street. Those will be your most often used sorting options. And then once you click on that, you choose that option, it will allow you, you'll click create list now, and then it'll pull up this page that just has a list of the PDFs that you just created. Because every precinct that you selected now turns into a PDF with the information that you requested from the data center. And then you can download the file. You can see, this is the screen we just saw, that there's just a download button right to the left. Should be a video here. And like I said, it just creates a really nice PDF, really easy to use. You can see it once it's pulled up. It's already ready to go. And you can save it as an Excel file or whatever works best for your purposes, or you can just print it off as a PDF right there straight to your printer. Okay, so the next thing that you can do with basic counts is create an export. And this is really what you're going to use to do the big lists. This is important for that purpose. And you'll click the export count button at the same place that you just clicked the create list button. And when you do this, the first option it will give you, and again, this is after you've chosen your criteria, you've already